The sun had barely begun to set behind the tall sugar palms of the Mekong countryside when Myra sat quietly on the porch, her fingers nervously tracing circles on her floral skirt. The cicadas screeched in the sweltering twilight, but her ears were only tuned to one thing: the clinking of bicycle chains. Finally, the sound of footsteps on gravel reached her ears. She looked up and saw Ryan, the man she had loved for nearly 5 years, walking toward her with a faint, tired smile on his face. He looked older than she remembered, more solemn, more distant. "Ryan," she whispered, standing to greet him. "Myra," he replied, not quite meeting her gaze. He sat beside her, their knees almost touching. Silence hung between them like a blade. "When will you come speak to my parents?" she asked at last, her voice barely above a breath. Ryan sighed. "It's just not the right time yet. I just got back from Saigon. The job hunt is harder than I thought." "But it's been 3 years, Myra said, her tone now tinged with frustration. 3 years I've waited while you studied, and now you've been back for 2 weeks and haven't even mentioned marriage. Do you know how many proposals I've turned down? Do you know how many fights I've had with my family because I believed in you? I never asked you to wait," he muttered. Myra froze. That sentence cut deeper than she expected. She looked at him with disbelief, then blinked quickly to hold back her tears. "I waited because I loved you." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "I know, Myra. I know you've sacrificed a lot for me. But I have nothing to offer you right now. No job, no house. How can I take care of a wife? I don't need you to take care of me," she exclaimed, voice rising. "We can start small. I just want us to be together. We'll figure it out. I'll wait tables if I have to. I'll sew. Just don't leave me in this limbo." "I'm not saying no," Ryan said, trying to calm her. "I'm saying, not yet." Myra stood and took a deep breath. The last of the light cast a golden hue over her face, but there was a storm in her eyes. "I'm not 20 anymore, Ryan. I don't have time for not yet." She turned and walked away into the darkness of her home, the screen door slamming behind her. That night, Ryan lay awake, staring at the peeling ceiling of his room. He remembered the first day he met Myra. How she offered him a lotus from her family's pond. How she used to laugh so freely. That laugh had faded. The next morning, before he left again for Saigon, Myra came to his doorstep with trembling hands and bloodshot eyes. "I'm pregnant," she said. "It's yours." Ryan paled. Are you sure?" "I haven't been with anyone else," she replied coldly. He looked away. "I can send you money for the procedure." Myra slapped him. The sound echoed through the narrow alleyway. She didn't say another word. She turned and walked off like a ghost, shoulders trembling, heart shattered. Back in Saigon, Ryan tried to bury himself in job interviews, applications, and long nights at internet cafes. One evening, just as he finished typing out yet another rejected resume, his phone rang. It was Myra. "Ryan, I need to see you." "Why?" "I'm coming to Saigon. I want to talk. In person." There was silence on the line. Then he muttered, "All right." When Myra arrived, she waited outside his apartment for over an hour. When no one answered, she peered through the broken curtain of the small window. Inside, she saw Ryan holding another woman in his arms. She didn't cry. Not immediately. Her body felt numb. Her mind buzzed with white noise. She turned away from the window and stumbled down the street like a woman possessed. Later that night, she returned. Not to beg. Not to argue. Just to see if what she saw was real. She knocked on the door once, twice, 3 times. Ryan opened the door, shirt unbuttoned, startled to see her. "What are you doing here?" "I saw you." "Myra. What about our child?" "Keep your voice down," he hissed. "You want the neighbors to hear." "You coward." Ryan gritted his teeth. "Fine. Come in." But as she stepped forward, he blocked her path. "Let's talk tomorrow. You can stay at a guest house." "You can't even let me in." Myra whispered, her heart breaking all over again. "I have company," he said flatly. Tears welled in her eyes, but she forced a bitter smile. "And our child?" "I'll pay for it. But I'm not ready to be a father." She slapped him again. Harder this time. "You're not even ready to be a man." She turned and walked into the night. That was the last time Ryan saw her alive. The street lights of Saigon flickered dimly as Myra wandered aimlessly through the narrow alleyways. Her body was on autopilot, but her mind was a cyclone of memories, grief, and betrayal. She found herself at a small, cheap hostel near a pagoda. The manager, an old woman with sleepy eyes and a kind face, took pity on her disheveled look and gave her a room for half price. Inside, Myra sat on the hard mattress. She placed her hand gently on her belly. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm sorry, little one," she whispered. "I thought you would be born into love. Into hope." The silence answered her. Over the next few days, Myra didn't return to her hometown. She couldn't face her parents. Not yet. She wandered the streets, sometimes staring blankly at passing couples, sometimes jotting words into a small notebook, words of pain, rage, betrayal. She never went back to Ryan's place again. Until the fourth night. This time, she wasn't there to talk. She needed to look him in the eye one last time, to confirm he was truly gone. That the boy she once loved had become this stranger. She waited in the alley across the street. The lights inside his apartment glowed soft yellow. Then she saw it, Ryan and the same woman again. Laughing. Eating. Kissing. That laugh. That kiss. It shattered something deep inside her. Her hands clenched into fists, nails biting into her palms until they bled. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply turned and walked away into the darkness, her figure dissolving into the shadows of the city. When Myra returned to her hometown a week later, she was unrecognizable. Thinner. Paler. Eyes hollow like someone who had returned from the underworld. Her parents were relieved to see her, but their concern soon turned to panic when she collapsed in the middle of the kitchen floor. They rushed her to the clinic. She hadn't eaten in days. And worse, the doctor confirmed she was still pregnant but barely. The stress, starvation, and emotional trauma were threatening both her life and the child's. Back home, her mother wept at her bedside. But Myra didn't cry. She stared blankly at the ceiling. When her father gently mentioned Ryan's name, she turned her head slowly and said, "He's dead to me." Weeks passed. Myra rarely spoke. Until one morning, she dressed in her white AO dye, the one she had saved for her wedding day, and left a note on her pillow. She walked to the river. The bridge stood like a skeleton over the black water. It was just before dawn. No one was around. She stood in the middle, looked down at her reflection, and whispered, "I'll protect you, my child, from this world." Then she smiled. Not a smile of joy, but of peace and finality. And she stepped off the edge. The river was still. No splash echoed. The water swallowed her whole like a mother taking back her child. The next morning, a fisherman named Koi spotted something pale near the reeds. He paddled closer and froze. A woman. Floating. Eyes closed. Face serene. But here was the strange part: the current had carried her not away from town, but back toward the bank, as if the river had returned her. Word spread fast. Villagers whispered of curses, forbidden love, and ghosts of the water. Her parents identified the body. Her mother collapsed in anguish. Her father's hair turned white in a matter of days. But there was no sign of Ryan at the funeral. No condolences. No flowers. Not even a phone call. And that night, The first sighting occurred. A group of children walking home late from a lantern festival said they saw a lady in white standing at the riverbank, brushing her long black hair. She turned to look at them. But she had no face. Just empty, black nothingness. They screamed and ran, swearing never to go near the water again. Then came the dreams. Old women in the village claimed Myra came to them at night, whispering from the edge of their beds. "Don't let him forget me. Don't let him sleep in peace." One man swore he saw her standing on the bridge at midnight, pointing toward the city, her voice echoing in the mist. "Bring him back." The local shaman, Master Hind, was summoned. He listened carefully to the stories. Then he knelt at the river and lit a bundle of sacred herbs. The flames flickered violently. The water rippled. And then, laughter. Not joyous, but hollow. Like a mother's heart broken beyond repair. Master Hind opened his eyes wide. "She has become something else," he whispered. "She is no longer a ghost. She is a curse." Ryan returned to his apartment in Saigon after a long day, blissfully unaware of the funeral that had taken place hundreds of miles away. His new girlfriend, Lila, was humming in the kitchen, chopping lemongrass for soup. "Do you smell that?" she suddenly asked, wrinkling her nose. Ryan looked up from his phone. "What?" "That strange, damp smell. Like something rotting." He sniffed the air. Faint. Metallic. Like wet cloth soaked in old blood. "Must be from the drains," he muttered and went back to scrolling. But the scent didn't fade. In fact, it seemed to follow him. Into the bedroom. Into the shower. Even into his dreams. That night, he dreamt of the river. Black. Still. And her. Myra, standing in the water, her white dress clinging to her body, soaked. Her eyes no longer warm brown, but empty voids of ink stared at him. She opened her mouth and said nothing. Just let the water pour from her lips. He awoke screaming. 3 days later, his neighbor downstairs knocked on his door. Her eyes were bloodshot. "You need to do something," she said. "There's a stench coming from your bathroom. It's seeping through my ceiling." He checked the bathroom. Nothing. No leaks. No mold. Just that smell. Stronger now. Like dead fish, rainwater, and rotting lilies. He bought bleach. Sprayed incense. Burned sandalwood. Nothing worked. Lila grew quieter with each passing day. She claimed the shadows moved when she wasn't looking. She claimed someone whispered to her at night. She says I'm a thief, Lila whispered one night, clutching Ryan's arm in the dark. Who says that? She does. The woman. She says I took what wasn't mine. You're not making any sense. Lila's lips trembled. She says, the child was mine. But it wasn't. She says, she's coming to take him back. Ryan slapped her. Not hard, but enough to snap her out of it. Or so he thought. She stared at him with a dead look in her eyes. She'll drown me. Just like you drowned her. That same night, Lila disappeared. Neighbors saw her leave the apartment in a daze, barefoot, heading toward the canal. They found her the next morning, lying unconscious by the water. Her lips were blue. Her body cold. But she was alive. She never spoke again. Only screamed. Meanwhile, in Myra's village, the sightings grew more frequent. A farmer saw her hovering above the rice fields at dusk, arms stretched wide, weeping. A group of children playing near the river said she floated just above the water and whispered their names she should never have known. The shaman, Master Hein, warned the villagers. She does not linger for closure. She lingers for vengeance. When asked what could be done, he hesitated. You cannot cleanse a wound that still bleeds. Word finally reached Ryan, Myra was dead. He laughed bitterly. What does that have to do with me? But he began to see her. Not in dreams. In reflections. In puddles. In glass. In the dark TV screen. Always drenched. Always staring. Always silent. One day, while walking near the old bridge behind his university, he passed a young girl with long hair and pale skin. She was standing by the edge, watching the water. Something about her felt wrong. Are you lost? He asked. She turned slowly. Her eyes were pitch black. Her mouth curled into a smile. You left us to drown. Ryan staggered back, heart pounding. You're not real, he hissed. She stepped toward him. Her voice changed, now echoing Myra's unmistakable tone. You left your child to die. He turned and ran. That night, his phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, why didn't you save us, Ryan? He blocked the number. But it returned. Unknown, why do you still sleep like you didn't kill us? His screen went black. Then it flickered. Then it showed a grainy image, a woman in a white dress, floating in water, eyes open, staring up. Desperate, Ryan sought out a spiritual healer in Colon, an old monk who rarely spoke. When Ryan explained everything, the monk simply said, "Some wounds rot into curses. Yours festers. Then help me." Ryan begged. "Please." The monk gave him one task. Go to the river. Apologize. Not with words. With truth. The next day, Ryan returned to Myra's village. He stood at the same bridge where she had taken her final step. Night fell. The wind howled. The river was silent. Then a ripple. Then a shape. She emerged. Soaked. Gray-skinned. Hair like seaweed. Eyes like the deepest trench. "Myra," he choked out. "I'm sorry. I was scared. I was selfish. I destroyed you." She said nothing. Just stared. Then, beside her, a smaller shape surfaced. A boy. No older than 3. His eyes copies of hers. "My son," Ryan whispered. The boy raised a hand. "Daddy," he said. And smiled. Then they both sank. No splash. No sound. Just silence. And Ryan collapsed on the bridge, sobbing until the sun rose. After Ryan's breakdown on the bridge, he was never quite the same. He returned to Saigon with bloodshot eyes, mumbling to himself in alleyways and staring at children in parks with an emptiness that unnerved mothers nearby. Once a man of ambition and calculation, he now wandered the streets like a ghost in his own body. Word of his unraveling began to spread online. Someone filmed him shouting at the Mekong River during a thunderstorm. The video was uploaded with the title, "Madman Claims to See Ghost of Drowned Lover." It went viral. But to the villagers back home, this was no joke. Something had changed. And not just in Ryan. 2 weeks after Myra's funeral, strange things began happening to her family. Her father, once a healthy farmer, suffered a mysterious fall in his own field. He claimed something cold had grabbed his ankle and pulled him into the mud. No one believed him, until his leg became infected with black boils no doctor could explain. Her mother began speaking to shadows. She would sit by the altar at dusk and whisper, "I cooked rice for you, sweet girl. Please don't cry tonight. Don't cry." When asked who she was talking to, she would blink slowly and say, "Myra doesn't like being hungry." At night, the family dog barked at empty corners, growling and backing away. One night, the dog vanished. In its place, a puddle of water. And tiny muddy footprints leading into the house. Down by the river, people whispered about a lady in white walking on the water. She didn't sink. She didn't speak. She only stared. and when a group of teenage boys dared each other to follow her one night, one of them never came back. His body washed ashore 2 days later. Eyes wide open. Lungs full of water. His fingernails broken as if he had tried to claw his way out of something. Master Hein, the village shaman, knew the signs. He summoned the elders. "This is no longer a haunting," he said. "It is a nesting." Everyone fell silent. A soul driven to madness can become more than a ghost. It becomes a force. A storm that shapes the living world. And Myra, she is not alone anymore. The elders gasped. "You mean?" "She brought the child with her." Back in Saigon, Ryan tried to forget. He locked himself inside his apartment, covered all the mirrors, left food by the door, and prayed that silence would protect him. But silence was the worst. Because that was when the child laughed. The sound came from his bedroom. Soft. Giggly. Like a boy playing with toys. But Ryan lived alone. He grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly opened the door. No one. Only a single handprint on the mirror. Wet. Tiny. At the same time, back in the village, an old woman named B.A. Lan claimed to have seen a vision during her prayer. "She's waiting," B.A. Lan whispered to Master Hein. "But not for him. For the other one. The greedy one. The traitor. The sister." That same night, far away in another village, a woman named Selina, a name she had taken after marriage, was having trouble sleeping. Selina was once Myra's sister-in-law. The one who had helped orchestrate Myra's downfall. The one who had lured her into a trap. Now, Selina was plagued by nightmares. In every dream, she stood on the bridge where Myra died. And the water below was filled with open eyes. Eyes that never blinked. Eyes that burned. She awoke drenched in sweat, her husband beside her still snoring. But then she heard it. A whisper. From under the bed. "Sister." She screamed and jumped out of bed, pulling her husband awake. But there was nothing there. Only wet footprints. Leading from the foot of the bed to the bathroom door. The next day, Selina insisted they visit a monk. She sobbed as she confessed what happened years ago, how she'd pushed Myra toward the river with her cruel words, how she laughed when she fell from favor in the family, how she called her an embarrassment. The monk listened in silence. Then said, "You cannot beg for mercy when the dead are still bleeding." That night, she burned incense, lit candles, prayed, begged. But Myra came anyway. This time, with her son. The child walked into Selina's kitchen as if it were his home. He smiled sweetly. Then his face began to rot before her eyes, skin melting, worms crawling from his mouth, water dripping from his empty sockets. Selina fainted. When she awoke, she had scratched her own arms bloody trying to dig out the worms. There were none. But her mind never recovered. She spent the rest of her days in silence, rocking back and forth in a clinic far from home, whispering only one word: Myra. Master Hind, now fully convinced of the gravity of the curse, decided it was time to confront it directly. He and 4 spirit monks set up an altar by the river. Offerings were made. Candles lit. Incantations read. But as they began the ritual, the wind turned bitter. The river rippled. And a voice called out from beneath the water. Too late. The candles extinguished. The ground trembled. One of the monks screamed and collapsed possessed, his mouth stretching open unnaturally wide. She waits in the house of the traders, the voice rasped through him. The child has teeth now. And he is hungry. Then silence. The monk went limp. The curse was no longer local. It had begun to reach beyond Myra's village, into Saigon, into temples, into the dreams of the guilt-ridden. And the child, the one who never lived, was growing. Feeding. Becoming something else. The city had changed. Saigon, once buzzing with life, now bore strange silences in the alleys after dark. People whispered of a child who knocked on doors past midnight, asking, "Have you seen my mother?" Those who answered with kindness, offering food, shelter, or help, reported nothing unusual afterward. But those who slammed the door were never seen again. At a university dormitory, a group of medical students played poker until 2 a.m. One of them, Min, lost a bet and was dared to go alone to the riverbank where the city's last drowning had taken place. Laughing, Min went, armed with beer and bravado. But 30 minutes later, his friends received a video from his phone. It showed Min standing by the edge of the water, laughing nervously. Then a child's voice said, "Play with me." The phone dropped. The final frame was of Min's terrified face, and behind him, a small child in a soaking wet school uniform, with hollow eyes and a leech wriggling from one nostril. His body was never found. Meanwhile, in Myra's village, Master Hind stood alone before the altar at midnight. He had not slept in 4 days. The monks who once assisted him had left, frightened after the possession. But Master Hind had stayed. He had seen such darkness before years ago, during a haunting in the highlands. But this was deeper. More ancient. More personal. He chanted softly, sweat running down his brow. Then a whisper behind him. "Grandpa." He turned. The child stood there. But this time, it was different. The boy looked older. Taller. Maybe 5 or 6 now. His limbs slightly too long, his mouth slightly too wide. You shouldn't be here, Master Hein whispered. But I was never born, the child replied. Then he smiled, teeth like needles, and vanished. Across the region, more sightings poured in. A woman bathing in the Mekong claimed the water turned to blood. A monk in training collapsed screaming, "She's inside my head." Children born in the last month came out wailing, eyes black until blessed. The villagers no longer whispered the name Myra. They now called her Ba Bong, the shadowed mother. Ryan, now living under supervision in a mental health clinic, refused to speak. Not until one rainy evening, when lightning struck, and he began screaming. "He's not my son. He's not my son." The nurses rushed in. Ryan had carved a name into the wall with his fingernails. Liam. The name Myra had chosen for the child. A name Ryan had never known. Back in the spirit world, a realm twisted and shaped by vengeance, Myra stood watching her son from afar. But he no longer smiled at her. He no longer ran into her arms. He stood, distant, changing. She wept, trying to touch him. But her hands passed through his translucent figure. A voice behind her said, "You fed him too long with hate. Now he eats on his own." It was the spirit of her mother. Myra turned, confused. "I did what I had to do," she cried. "He was ours. He was wronged. He must avenge." "But he does not know love anymore," her mother whispered. "Only hunger." Selena, the sister-in-law, confined in a clinic far away, suddenly began drawing. Every day. Hundreds of pages. Of a child with glowing red eyes. Of Myra, arms outstretched. Of a house burning. Of a river swallowing entire families. She screamed whenever someone tried to take the drawings away. One day, she bit a nurse. Then whispered, "He's looking for a new home. He'll come through your children." Elsewhere, in the village, a new family had moved into a home near the river. The wife was pregnant. 7 months in. Her name was Thao. She often walked to the river in the evening, feeling strangely drawn to its glimmering reflection. One day, she swore she saw a woman on the far bank, holding the hand of a child. They waved, and then vanished. That night, she dreamt of holding her child in a hospital bed. But when she looked down, the child was already walking. Already talking. And he looked up and said, "Thank you, Mother. Now I can start again." The rain had not stopped for 3 days. Thunder growled across the sky like a warning. The river near the village overflowed, turning paths into streams and trees into silhouettes in a flooded world. Yet, in the middle of it all, Thao stood barefoot in the mud, staring at the water. She didn't know why she had come outside. She didn't remember walking here. Her husband found her just before dawn, soaked to the bone, hand gently resting on her belly as she whispered, "He's coming." Later that morning, she had no recollection of the event. Probably stress, the local nurse said. But the baby was moving far more than before. Kicking. Twitching. At times, it felt as though it were clawing. Meanwhile, Master Hein knew something had gone terribly wrong. He had spent nights meditating, trying to reach the spiritual plane, to call upon Myra's spirit. But now, it was no longer Myra who answered. It was the boy. And he didn't speak in words. He screamed. High-pitched. Violent. Echoing through Hein's skull. He bled from his nose and ears after each session. His disciples begged him to stop. But he couldn't. He's not a spirit anymore, Hein finally told them. He's something else. A force. A will. A hunger wrapped in the form of a child. At the psychiatric hospital, Ryan had stopped eating. He just sat by the window, drawing hundreds of pictures with chalk. All the same. A tree. A bridge. A woman in white holding hands with a boy whose face was just a black hole. One day, a nurse asked him, "Who's the boy?" Ryan slowly turned and smiled, a tear sliding down his cheek. "He's mine," he said. "But he's not ours anymore." Elsewhere, at a monastery in the Central Highlands, a foreign monk named Father Elias had heard rumors of the river mother, a spirit said to lure souls to the water, appearing as both saint and monster. He arrived at the village quietly, offering only his prayers and a rosary. But when he walked near the riverbank for the first time, he fell to his knees and vomited blood. "It's not a ghost," he told Master Hein later. "It's a possession. And it's no longer confined to death." That night, Thao screamed in her sleep. Her husband rushed to her side. She sat upright, eyes open but blind. She spoke in a voice not her own. "Don't name him. That gives him power." Then she collapsed. They rushed her to the hospital. The baby was still alive. But the doctor hesitated. "I don't understand," he muttered, pointing at the ultrasound screen. "The child's heart isn't beating." Yet, the child moved. Kicked. Smiled. Back in the village, dogs disappeared. Water buffalo refused to drink from the river. Children had night terrors of a boy with no face knocking on their windows. One child went missing. Her name was Lan. They found her shoes by the river. Nothing else. Then, a phone call. Selena. She had escaped the clinic. Her voice trembled on the line. It's not done. He's looking for more. He's going to be born again. He'll keep doing it. Over and over. Where are you? Asked Master Hein. But the line went dead. Hours later, her body was found at a train station bathroom. On the mirror, written in blood. Born once of sorrow. Born again of silence. That night, Myra returned. For the first time in years, she appeared not as a ghost, but fully formed. She walked into a dream shared by three people at once: Master Hein, Father Elias, and Thao. In that dream, she stood in white by a dead tree surrounded by black river water. Her hair floated around her like seaweed. Her eyes were no longer hollow, but full of sadness. Stop him, she pleaded. Before he becomes me. Then she began to dissolve, skin peeling like petals from a lotus, revealing the boy behind her, who looked at the dreamers and whispered. You can't stop a child who's never been born. Thao awoke screaming. Her water had broken. Too early. The hospital room was sterile and cold, humming with the quiet beeps of machines and the soft footsteps of nurses. Thao lay on the narrow bed, clutching the hands of her husband, Min, her face pale but determined. The storm outside raged fiercely, as if the heavens themselves were warring. Her breath came in sharp, uneven bursts. The midwife's voice was calm but urgent. This is premature. The baby may not survive. Min nodded, gripping her hand tighter. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. The power flickered, then went out entirely. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, and in that moment, a piercing scream shattered the silence. Thao's body convulsed violently, and a faint, chilling voice whispered in the shadows. He is born. The baby arrived, tiny and fragile, wrapped in a thin white blanket. His skin was translucent, almost glowing faintly in the moonlight filtering through the blinds. The nurses cooed and smiled, but Min noticed something unsettling. The infant's eyes were open. Not just open, but deeply black, like voids reflecting endless night. The doctor frowned but said nothing, chalking it up to premature reflexes. But Thao knew. She felt the presence. The child was no ordinary newborn. Over the following days, strange occurrences plagued the hospital wing. Lights flickered uncontrollably. Patients reported hearing a baby crying in empty rooms. Nurses saw fleeting shadows darting just beyond their line of sight. One night, a nurse found the infant's crib empty only to discover him sitting upright in the hallway, staring at her with a chilling smile. She blinked and he vanished. Min's joy turned to dread. His wife grew weaker by the day, haunted by nightmares and bouts of unexplainable fatigue. She's not herself, he confided to a friend. It's like something is draining her. One evening, Min entered their dimly lit apartment to find Thao chanting softly in an ancient language, her eyes glazed and distant. "Stop," he whispered, afraid. But she turned slowly, voice layered with an eerie resonance. "He demands a sacrifice." Meanwhile, Master Hein and Father Elias had convened an emergency council in the village's ancient temple. They pored over ancient scrolls and folklore, searching for a way to contain the growing darkness. The consensus was terrifying. The child was an embodiment of deep-seated vengeance, part spirit, part curse. They called it Conquisinra, the child that was born. The only way to stop it was through a ritual known as Fap Trulin, the severance rite, which required the mother's consent and the strength to sever the child's tether to the mortal world. Back in the city, Thao's condition worsened. She was now speaking in tongues, her body marked by bruises that seemed to pulse with dark energy. One night, Min awoke to her absence. Searching frantically, he found her by the riverbank, standing in the cold water, holding the baby. The infant's face was a terrifying mask, half human, half beast. Thao whispered, "He needs to cross over. He needs to feed. And then, he will return." Min tried to take the baby from her, but she pushed him away with unnatural strength. Suddenly, the river surged. Dark tendrils of water reached out, swirling around the trio. Min screamed as the water pulled Thao and the baby beneath the surface. Hours later, the river spat them back onto the muddy shore. Thao lay unconscious, clutching the baby, who slept peacefully. Min helped her up, noticing the black veins spreading across her skin like creeping ivy. The horror was just beginning. The next day, Thao disappeared. She left a note. "I must finish what Myra started. Only then can we rest." Min, desperate and terrified, sought out Master Hein and Father Elias, begging for help. In the temple, the three men prepared. Sacred herbs, ancient chants, and protective talismans were gathered. The ritual was to be performed at midnight on the new moon, when the veil between worlds was thinnest. As darkness fell, the temple filled with a palpable tension. Candles flickered, incense smoke twisted and danced. Thao was brought in, her body frail but eyes blazing with unearthly fire. The baby cooed softly, a sound that sent shivers down the spine of all present. The ritual began. Father Elias intoned prayers in Latin, while Master Hein chanted in Vietnamese. Thao cried out, the baby screaming in reply. Suddenly, the air grew cold. A shadow burst forth from the infant's body, a swirling mass of darkness and rage. The child's true form was revealed, a small demon with sharp claws, fiery eyes, and a mouth full of jagged teeth. It lunged at the monks. Chaos erupted. Candles shattered, chants faltered. Men tried to shield Thao but was thrown across the room by an invisible force. Master Hein stood firm, holding a sacred sword glowing with blue light. He He plunged it into the demon's shadow. The creature howled, dissipating into a cloud of black smoke. Thao collapsed, exhausted but alive. The ritual had worked. For now. But the curse was not broken. The child's soul was only sealed. Waiting. Watching. For its next chance to be born. The moon hung low and sickly yellow over the village, casting long shadows on cracked earth and flooded fields. The villagers kept their doors bolted and their windows shuttered, whispering prayers to unseen gods. But the darkness was no longer confined to the riverbank or the temple. It was inside their homes. Men, haunted and desperate, struggled to keep Thao alive. Her body grew weaker, the black veins spreading further across her skin each day like creeping rot. Yet, her eyes burned with a strange light, one that neither fear nor hope could extinguish. One night, as the winds howled outside, Min awoke to a soft lullaby drifting from the baby's cradle. He approached cautiously. The cradle was empty. In its place, a small puddle of water shimmered unnaturally on the floor. Suddenly, a child's laughter echoed, clear and chilling. Min spun around, heart pounding, but saw nothing. Meanwhile, the village priest, Father Elias, began to notice an unsettling pattern. Families with newborn children were falling ill, their infants refusing to feed, eyes turning dark. One mother reported a figure visiting her at night, a woman in white with wet hair, silently rocking the cradle, whispering promises of protection. But the protection came with a price. Master Heinz sensed the veil between worlds thinning dangerously. He traveled to the capital, seeking scrolls and knowledge from ancient monasteries. In dusty tomes, he found warnings of a curse older than memory, a curse that could not be banished by ritual alone. It spoke of a cycle of rebirth, where a vengeful spirit, denied peace, would be reborn endlessly through innocent children, growing stronger with each generation until it consumed the world. Back in the village, Thao's condition worsened. She began to speak in tongues again, sometimes in soft, mournful voices, other times in harsh, angry ones. At times, she would smile a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Min's friends grew wary, warning him to leave before he too was consumed. But Min refused. He loved her. Even as darkness took hold. One evening, Min awoke to find Thao standing at the riverbank, holding the baby. Her skin shimmered, reflecting the moonlight like wet porcelain. She turned slowly, eyes blazing with otherworldly fire. "He's ready," she whispered. The baby giggled, eyes glowing red. At the same moment, the river roared to life. Waters churned violently, swallowing boats and breaking trees. From the depths, a figure emerged. Myra. But not as the gentle girl who once loved Ryan. Now, a queen of darkness, crowned in water lilies blackened and wilting. Her gaze swept the village. Her voice rang out like a funeral bell. The cycle continues. The village erupted into chaos. Doors flung open, people running screaming. Animals howled and fled. Fires broke out in homes inexplicably. Master Hein and Father Elias arrived just in time. They gathered the villagers in the temple, chanting prayers, and lighting protective charms. But even their efforts seemed futile. The shadow of the child stretched across the land, consuming light and hope. In a desperate bid, men confronted Thao at the riverbank. He pleaded, tears streaming. "Please, fight him. Fight this darkness inside you. Fight for our child." She smiled sadly. "You don't understand. I am already lost." The baby in her arms cried a sound like the breaking of glass. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked open, and black water surged forth. From it rose a monstrous version of the child, tall, with wings of tattered silk and eyes burning like hellfire. It roared, shaking the earth. Men shielded Thao as the battle began. Master Hein and Father Elias joined, wielding ancient relics and spells. The village became a battlefield between light and shadow. As dawn broke, the monstrous child was banished back into the river depths, but at a terrible cost. Thao's body lay lifeless on the shore. Men wept, clutching her hand. The villagers knew the cycle was only paused, not ended. The village was silent. The morning sun filtered through heavy clouds, casting a muted glow over the charred remains of homes, broken trees, and scorched earth. The river, once a source of life, now loomed dark and still, hiding the secrets of the night. Men stood alone by the water's edge, clutching a small, tattered photo of Thao in happier times. His eyes were hollow, haunted by the recent nightmare. He could still hear the child's roar echoing in his mind, a sound that promised the darkness was far from over. Far away, in the capital city, Father Elias sat in his modest quarters, surrounded by ancient texts and fading scrolls. His hands trembled as he read the ominous prophecy. When the child of the river is born, vengeance will spiral through generations, each rebirth feeding the darkness, until the cycle is broken by blood not yet spilled. He knew what he must do. He must find Ryan. Ryan. The broken man locked away in a mental institution, muttering to shadows. When Father Elias arrived, Ryan was silent for days, staring at the wall covered in chalk drawings, the endless circles, the shadowed faces, the river that swallowed souls. Then one night, Ryan spoke. In a voice raw and cracked, he told Elias the story of Myra, the woman he once loved, betrayed, and lost, of the child never truly born, but forever haunting his bloodline. "I thought it was over," Ryan whispered. "But it's not. The curse follows us." Meanwhile, back in the village, Master Hein gathered a council of elders, monks, and mystics. Their faces were grim, voices low. "The cycle continues," he said. "The child grows stronger. It feeds on grief, betrayal, and fear. We must prepare," added an elder. "If the curse is not ended, it will spread beyond the river, beyond the village." The council agreed to perform the rite of severance, a sacred ceremony that could sever the curses tethered to the mortal world. But it required a sacrifice, someone of pure blood, willing to bear the pain to save many. Unbeknownst to them, the child had already begun to manifest elsewhere. A young woman named Lynn, living in the city, had just given birth to a son. Her child was beautiful, black hair, bright eyes. But at night, Lynn heard whispers. Footsteps in empty halls. The soft giggle of a child no one else could see. She awoke one night to find her son sitting up in his crib, eyes glowing a fiery red. He smiled and said, "Mother, I am home." The darkness was no longer contained. It spread like wildfire. Stories emerged of families shattered by mysterious deaths, disappearances, and madness. Those who dared investigate found symbols etched in blood near riverbanks and ancient trees, symbols of a curse older than memory. Father Elias and Master Hein reunited with Min, forming a fragile alliance. "We must find the source," Elias said. "Face the child before it grows beyond control." Their search led them to Lynn's apartment, where they found signs of a struggle, broken furniture, scorch marks, and a trail of black water leading to the nursery. Lynn was gone. Only her infant son remained, silent and watching. The trio prepared for the confrontation. They gathered relics blessed by monks and priests of various faiths, combining prayers, chants, and talismans. As midnight approached, they faced the nursery, the epicenter of the growing darkness. The child emerged from the shadows, a towering figure of shifting form, part human, part water, with eyes like burning coals. It laughed, a sound that shook the very foundation of the building. The battle was fierce. The air crackled with energy. Ancient words clashed with primal fury. Men held the child's gaze, seeing both innocence and apocalypse within. With a final chant, Master Hein plunged a sacred dagger into the ground, unleashing a wave of pure light that engulfed the child. The creature screamed, dissolving into mist and vanishing. Silence. Lynn's baby was still. Min, Elias, and Hein collapsed, exhausted. But as dawn broke, a faint heartbeat stirred. The curse was contained, for now. Yet, in the depths of the river, a ripple disturbed the surface. A pair of eyes, black and infinite, watched. Waiting. The village had never been truly peaceful since the birth of the cursed child. The air hung heavy with unease, even during bright daylight. Crops failed inexplicably, livestock vanished without trace. The elders whispered of a spreading darkness, an ancient shadow resurrected from forgotten sins. Min had disappeared days ago. His last known whereabouts were near the river, where the currents swirled unnaturally fast, carrying whispers in a language no one understood. Far from the village, Lynn's baby, now several months old, was no longer the innocent infant he seemed. His eyes, once simply red, now flickered with intelligence and malice. At night, he whispered to the shadows, learning secrets older than time itself. Meanwhile, a new figure emerged in the story, Tan, a young woman with roots tied to the village but raised in the city. She had returned to care for her sick grandmother, unaware that she carried within her the dormant bloodline connected to the curse. One evening, as Tan lit incense at her grandmother's altar, the flame flickered wildly. Suddenly, a chill swept the room. A voice whispered in the wind. "You are next." The next days were a whirlwind. Tan began experiencing vivid nightmares, visions of rivers turning to blood, children with hollow eyes, and a woman in white weeping beside the water. She awoke one morning with strange markings on her arms, ancient symbols etched in what looked like ash but burned faintly to the touch. Determined to understand, Tan sought out Father Elias and Master Hein. They told her of the curse, the endless cycle of vengeance embodied by Myra and her child. "You are connected," Elias explained gravely. "The bloodline continues. The curse will seek you, as it did your ancestors." Tan shuddered. "How can I stop it?" The answer was grim. Only by embracing the darkness within could she hope to break free. She must journey to the river at midnight, confront the spirit of Myra, and face the unborn evil. At the riverbank, Tan waited under a pale moon. The water shimmered and parted. Myra appeared no longer terrifying, but sorrowful. She reached out. "Help me end this," she whispered. Suddenly, the water churned violently. From the depths emerged the child, now a towering shadow, his form shifting, eyes blazing with fury. Tan stood firm. With ancient chants and her own will, she faced the darkness. The battle was not just of strength, but of spirit. Tan's bloodline flared with power long forgotten. She chanted, the air thick with energy. The child screeched, claws tearing at the night. But Tan held the sacred amulet passed down from her grandmother. A blinding light burst forth, enveloping the child. When the light faded, only silence remained. Myra smiled softly. "Thank you." She faded away, leaving Tan alone by the peaceful river. Back in the village, balance was restored. The rivers ran clear. The crops grew. The shadows lifted. Yet, in a distant city, a faint whisper traveled through the wind. "This is not the end." Months had passed since Tan's confrontation by the river. Life in the village had settled into a fragile peace. Children laughed again, farmers tended their fields, and the river flowed clear, shimmering under the sun's gentle gaze. Yet beneath the surface of this calm, something stirred. Tan had returned to the city, her mind haunted by dreams she could not shake, visions of dark waters rising, voices whispering her name, and a shadowy figure watching from the edge of her consciousness. At the city's oldest library, Tan delved into forgotten tomes and arcane manuscripts, desperate to uncover the true nature of the curse that had plagued her lineage for generations. There she found a passage written in a crumbling script. "The curse of the River Mother is eternal, bound by blood and spirit. The cycle can only be truly broken when the heir of shadows willingly surrenders the darkness within." Until then, the shadow's legacy will bleed through time. Unbeknownst to Tan, her actions had awakened something far greater than Myra's restless spirit, a primordial force known as the Shadow Lineage, an ancient curse interwoven with the fate of humanity itself. One night, as Tan walked home beneath the flickering streetlights, a chill wrapped around her like icy fingers. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, twisting and contorting. From the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in tattered white, a woman with hair like black rivers and eyes like bottomless voids. "Myra," whispered Tan, heart pounding. The apparition smiled, an expression both mournful and menacing. "You've done well, child. But the cycle never ends. It only changes faces." Meanwhile, back in the village, a new family had arrived, descendants of a forgotten branch of the lineage, unaware of the darkness that coursed through their veins. Their infant, a boy named Kien, exhibited strange behaviors, whispering to invisible companions, eyes flickering between innocent brown and sinister black. Villagers reported seeing the boy wandering near the river at night, speaking in a voice that chilled the air. Master Hein and Father Elias, now aged and weary, sensed the curse's resurgence. They sought out Tan, urging her to embrace her destiny as the heir of shadows. Together, they prepared a new ritual, a dangerous one, requiring Tan to journey into the spirit world itself. During the ritual, Tan's spirit was pulled through layers of existence, confronting visions of her ancestors' pain, betrayal, and suffering. She met Myra face to face, a spectral figure of sorrow and rage. "Myra, we must end this," Tan pleaded. "Not with vengeance, but with forgiveness." Myra's eyes softened, and she reached out, touching Tan's heart. "Then you must carry the light within the shadow." Emerging from the ritual, Tan felt reborn, her connection to the curse transformed into a beacon of hope. But outside, the world trembled. The shadow lineage was awakening, and its hunger was insatiable. The night was heavy with silence. The river lay still, reflecting the cold silver moon like a glass mirror, dark, endless, and foreboding. Tan stood at its edge, her heart pounding with the weight of what was to come. She had become the heir of shadows, the last guardian of a curse that spanned generations. The village behind her was quiet, but she knew it was only the calm before the storm. The shadow stirred beneath the water, a monstrous presence gathering strength from centuries of pain and vengeance. It was the essence of Myra's wrath and the child's hunger, an ancient darkness ready to devour the world. The water churned violently as the monstrous form emerged, larger than before, eyes blazing like infernos, claws tearing through the night air. It bellowed, a sound that shook the stars themselves. Tan steadied herself, clutching the sacred amulet passed down through her bloodline. Beside her stood Father Elias and Master Hein, faces etched with determination and fear. "We have one chance," Elias whispered. "The ritual must sever the curse's root tonight." The battle began. Light clashed against darkness as chants rose into the air, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Tan stepped forward, her voice rising above the chaos. She called to the shadow, not with anger, but with compassion. "Myra," she said, "you are not alone. Your pain is heard." The shadow hesitated, flickering. In that moment, Tan reached into her own soul, drawing out the sorrow and hatred that had consumed her ancestors. She offered it back, transformed into forgiveness. The monstrous figure roared, struggling as the light wrapped around it, dissolving the shadows. Suddenly, the river calmed. The darkness lifted. Myra's spirit appeared, radiant and at peace. She smiled gently at Tan. "Thank you," she whispered. Then vanished into the stars. The village awoke to sunlight and song. The curse was broken. The shadow lineage severed. Months later, Tan held her newborn child, eyes bright with hope. The river flowed clear and free. Life returned. And the story of Myra and the child became a tale of warning, a reminder of the power of forgiveness over vengeance. Title: The Vengeful Sister, Curse of the River Child. Description: In a remote village shadowed by a dark past, Myra's tragic fate ignites a cycle of vengeance that spans generations. Betrayed by the man she loved and doomed by a cruel curse, her restless spirit returns from the depths of the river with her unborn child, a child who embodies wrath, sorrow, and an insatiable hunger for justice. As the curse spreads, threatening to consume all who cross its path, a young descendant must confront the darkness within her bloodline. With the help of ancient mystics and a desperate will to break free, she faces a final reckoning that will decide the fate of the living and the dead. The Vengeful Sister, Curse of the River Child is a haunting tale of love, betrayal, and the terrifying power of vengeance beyond death.